Hey guys, I'm Mr. Jr. here, aka Mustached. I'm here to review the movie The Upside. So as you can see, as far as movie releases are concerned, I have severely once again fallen behind. But that is not going to stop me from bringing them back, as I'm keeping it strong with the hybrid channel for as long as my channel lives, which it will probably die. But now that that's out of the way, we go ahead and start this movie. Actually, near the end of it, we actually skip ahead to see Bryan Cranston's character. I believe his name is Philip, and the police are following Kevin's character Del, or Scott, or whatever his name is. I believe it was Del, D-E-L. So I will just call him Del, even though in my notes at the beginning I could have sworn they called him Scott a lot, but whatever. Anyway. So, Philip, or Brian's character, pretends to get sick, and we see that, again, this is the middle of the movie. So we cut back to the beginning where we see Del trying to get signatures from various people at jobs so that he can essentially get out of his parole or whatever setup this is. So he goes into the third job interview with this sitting with another guy. Meanwhile, Philip is doing interviews, hearing all these various people talk about how they wish to take care of this man who is essentially paralyzed from the neck down. So he, that being Del, barges in and starts to talk about just needing the signature. And Philip seems interested enough in this sort of just attitude, so he offers the position immediately. So Del decides to leave, sneak a little gift home, and decides to visit his son. So he chills out with this drug dealer afterwards, and meanwhile we see that Philip is thinking about his wife that he lost. So we cut back to Del, who takes on this job and wants some sort of card essentially to get there. But he says the businesswoman that is there, I believe her name is Allison, I want to say. I have it further in my notes, but I think her name is Allison, played by Nicole Kidman. So she says essentially that this is an on-the-job job, so he gets to stay there. He ends up kind of falling asleep temporarily. So he begins the job on the next period of time, in which he proceeds to essentially kind of screw up as he's kind of going along. And he kind of wants to understand why Phil took him in. He proceeds to meet Maggie, who he poorly flirts with, but flirts with nonetheless, even though he has a wife, which, So, in the process of not accepting one of the job things that he has to do, he gets a strike. This is brought up by Allison, who says that if he gets 3 strikes, he will be fired and will no longer be able to work there. So Dale kind of puts together that Philip wants him to fail, and so he kind of bucks down and takes it in, helping give the shower, playing some music. So, Philip suggests to Dell that he think about what kind of future he wants, and they talk about this whole business deal or app or whatever it is that he's going to plan to essentially want. And it kind of is a running thing throughout the movie. I don't know, I don't recall, at least now, if they ever came up with an actual solid answer, but nonetheless, they meet the next door neighbor, Carter. Not that he has too big of a role to play, but so anyways, they start to talk about the value, that being Dell and Philip, about the value he would give to repossess the things that his wife had left behind, and what he was willing to pay extra to get these things that, again, on first viewing, they might have not been very expensive, but because they were part of his wife's collection, he wanted to, again, accentuate or over expense to get these things. So, Dell talks to his ex, and he gives her some money after a little bit of talking, and he starts to follow his son afterwards, who's talking to the drug dealer very briefly. You think it's gonna go somewhere messed up, but nope, never does. So, he gets a little massage, or I'm sorry, a message, and heads back to work. So, in a weird moment, Allison skips right from strike 2 to strike 3. I'm not sure if they just cut strike 2 out, or if that was just poor writing, I don't know, but nonetheless, Philip starts to once again think about what has been happening, about his past, what happened to his wife, and Dell essentially is like, gets at him, like saying like, oh, you need to stay alive, essentially. So he proceeds to take Philip outside, and Philip starts to talk to him about his wife. So Dell offers up some weed, and the both of them end up high, wanting various hot dogs, and then Dell thinks of an app where you can just find weed or whatever. The two of them take the bus, and Dell proceeds to talk about his past and how his dad was also in prison, and then they were in prison together. So he offers to continue to help Phil, and Phil starts to joke around, and the lighting of the mood starts to change. Oh, I'm sorry, I got her name wrong. It's Yvonne, I believe. That's the name. I think that's what I said earlier. Damn, my memory is really bad. Anyway. So she gets in on a pretty bad time, and then it cuts to Dell in a montage, pretty much giving the wheelchair a little bit of an upgrade. How he obtained this knowledge is left to complete, whatever. Cuts to him in the shower, and then getting like sprayed. And then it cuts to them going to a show, where he starts laughing at the performance, and then he starts to get into it, that being Dell. So from the... Oh man, whoops, something happened on my notes. So just bear with me. I don't know why that just happened. That's never happened before. Anyways, back to where we were. Sorry about that. I'm always going to be honest with you guys. When I fuck shit up, I want you guys to know that I accidentally clicked on forward on my notes and then I went to a whole nother review that I'm planning to do really soon. So anyways, as I was saying, where was I? Oh man, that really threw me off. Yes, montage, right after that. So, Philip takes on this little update and he's appreciating it. Oh, sorry, I got past that actually. So, Dell, busts Yvonne about talking to somebody, and she talks about how she's was married and planned to essentially just be by herself. So he's trying to get her to essentially laugh at his bad jokes. And he continues to give money to his ex so that her and his son can live happily. So it goes to like another montage of like him looking up for the son, adjusting the chair like how he did. So Dell tells Philip that he like to try to be a poet, or that everyone is a poet, that he should give this woman that he's been sort of writing to this chance, and then Dell goes for the phone. Philip feels like he is forced to answer it, at least that is what he claims. And Yvonne claims that if what is in his heart and mind are what matter the most. So Dell hangs up afterwards, after that little debacle, a little dog picture that he put together. So Philip still has his birthday celebrated, and he ends up getting this location, getting to pick this location where he gets to pick up his son, and the three of them hang out in this ice cream store. And then the son finally returns the book because Dell was honest about that, and then they return home. So Dell takes his part in messing around with the gifts because they both got at each other. And one of the workers like talks to him, or Philip, I forget which one. And Dell is trying to appease Philip, having people sing for him. Things are looking good again. Yvonne is getting into this little dance. They're having a little dance party for his birthday now, and everyone's happy. Yvonne gets a call from the lady. We learn her name is Lily. So Dell gets paid, so he goes off or whatever. And Lily talks about Philip. And the two of them get to hang out on a little date, and she was not expecting the outcome of his condition, but knew of his injury, but just did not know it was this severe. So Philip rushes out and finally snaps at Dell for putting this whole little date together, and ends up firing him. So Dell, with the money he had obtained, got his family a new place to live. But one of the workers that worked alongside, uh, went to go find Dell after some passage of time, enough time to grow a beard, which probably isn't a significant amount of time, but it's probably a few days. Um, and we head back to the start of the film, where we see the end tale of the chase, the hospital, seeing what. Oh, actually, we actually just recap the entire thing once again. And then we see that the hospital comes out with their little, with one of those carrying things. I forget what the actual official term is, but anyway, a gurney? I don't know. Anyway, so they end up like driving off and having a fun old time. So he takes him out to the woods and preps him, that Philip, up to like do some air gliding, but he gets him back by having Dell do it too. So the two of them have a good time at the end. Dell then removes the beard in a various amount of fashions, and thus we see that Yvonne comes back, the worker, and then the two of them are like talking, and we see Dell essentially just leave. And then I suppose like continuing to work with Philip from that point forward, because at the end of the credits it said like, oh, they're still friends to this very day. So that was The Upside, and it was alright. Again, when I see a based on true story, I'm still looking at a film, right? And that's the thing, is that it's really hard to judge something when you know it's based on a real story, because there is the real story, and then there is like how to, up the ante for the film. Like, what do you enhance, what do you change, because not everything from a real life story is gonna translate perfectly into a movie that is entertaining. In this case, I feel like that the crux of this comes from the attempts at comedy. Now, I can't say that with 100% certainty, but considering that Kevin Hart is a comedian, primarily, again, that is just where I feel like a lot of that, some of that writing, like some of those jokes might have been like, just going for the joke instead of having something, something more natural. There are parts of the movie, like I said, that don't feel like they are fully fleshed out. I mean, I don't know, like, whatever happened, like, I thought something else was gonna happen with the son and the drug dealer, like, I thought that was gonna be something. I mean, again, is that something you up for the movie, or is that something you keep out? I don't know. Again, just these little parts, that go together to create a movie that is based on something new. Again, what do you keep, what do you take out? So, again, I think that every case of it's based on a true story is a base by base kind of circumstance. Every time it's going to be different. And I thought, again, it was okay. I would give it a 6 out of 10. I think overall it was a good movie. I think like some of the jokes, if that is the case, again, upping them to hit a little harder. Because that's the thing, is that if you're going to have a movie like this, where it's like, you're taking it very seriously because of the condition, you need to this movie is trying to obviously simultaneously offset that with the amount of comedy, right? And you have to balance that out. You have to balance out the writing of the comedy with the sort of getting over the tragedy, not over just his condition, but the loss of his wife. You're dealing with both of those intense scenarios, and I don't feel like the comedy help. I don't think the comedy is on that level. I think it's way too low for this. And in, and until you kind of just get this sort of, and even I'm gonna say it, and I know it's cruel, I suppose, to say it. Even the sort of more like the whole thing about the wife and even his condition, I feel like they're not played 100% like, like it grips you in, and I think a tiny part of that, again, it's a minor detail. Well, it could be a minor detail depending on what type of genre you are looking into. I think in this particular case, the music as could have played a bigger part in this type of genre. This sort of, sad, kind of getting you into the mood of like, oh, this is not a happy-ish story, particularly around the parts of the flashback, particularly around the parts of him just sort of being sad and alone and not wanting to take anyone else in. Again, it's about clashing these opposites and making them work, and I think that is the biggest problem of this movie, is that there is a big miss between those two elements. So yep. So that was my review of The Upside, and if you enjoyed this review, then please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Also make sure to check out that link in the description. The first link will head you over to my Discord page, feel free to join, and the second one is to my Patreon page. Any donations are greatly appreciated, and until next time everyone, bye bye.